Well, hello, my hey, I got something to say, people. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate and love you, the men and the women around the world that have been supporting me, not just with this podcast, but man, thanks for giving me all the props with my TEDx. Woo, woo. I didn't know I was so loved. So I just want to say thank you so much. All right. I'm very excited about our guest. But before I bring her on, let me just tell you a teeny bit about what she does. We're going to have fun today. Dr. Leanna Wolfe's sex research was spirited by coming of age in the thick of the 1970s sexual revolution and feminist movement in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her curiosities and academic appetites led her to engage in field research in Mexico, Africa, India, and New Guinea, earning an MA in anthropology from the New School of Social Research and a PhD in sexology from the Institute of Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. From 1980 to 2018, she worked at a university professor teaching and researching topics ranging from orgasm, multiple partner sexualities, and sexual assault. In 2016, she launched Wise Women, Sex and Relationship Consulting, providing counseling through her unique lens of sexual anthropology. Welcome, Dr. Leanna. How are you?
I am just fine. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Ooh, I was excited. When I saw you reached out, I'm like, we haven't touched this subject in a while, and we
Oh,
have. And
okay.
so my peeps are like, yeah, when are we going to get back to that? So I thought, ooh, this will be perfect. And the last person we had on, he was phenomenal. It was a male, and he was great too. So let's start with your first big statement and why you picked it. Be your authentic, playful, brilliant self. You will have more fun. Why'd you pick that, Leanna?
Well, I picked that because that's what led me to write my book the way I wrote it. I have a book that just came out this year called 177 Lovers and Counting. My life
Love
as a
that. I
sex
love that.
researcher. And at some point I realized that I just had to be me. And I just had to tell the actual truth of what I'd been up to and how I'd been up to it. That, as a young woman, I came of age right in this special spot when Roe versus Wade became the law of the land, so there was always abortion
Ah,
backup. Birth control was free. AIDS and COVID-19 had not emerged. And so it was pretty easy and safe and fun to have a lot of partners and try people out and see what worked and see who worked and all the rest of it. So by the time I started writing this book, at first I thought, well, I'm a professional. Have a doctorate in sexology. I should
yeah.
kind of keep my personal life to myself. But then my personal life is what was really leading me to all the things that I saw and how I saw them. And so I was in this writing group right after I um, left my teaching career because I'd been
Mhm.
teaching a good long time. And everyone in the group was a hair older and quite conservative. And
Oh,
they just kept like rolling their eyes when they heard my stories. And so finally, one day, I just showed up and gave them this essay with that title, 177 Lovers and Counting. And so it kind of quieted them down, and they just like stopped trying to figure it all out because somehow a number kind of landed them somewhere. But then
oh
the
my.
leader of the group told me that I was being too provocative and I was not welcome to return. So I just took that as walking papers to go on and find where I did fit in. And turned out I got a fantastic publisher. I've had some amazing events around my book. I have a solo show that I developed, and I've been performing it at conferences and
Wow.
at theater festivals, and it's been really, really fun.
You can apply that to everything. I'm so glad that you said that, Leanna, that they were like, okay, you're being too provocative. You're not welcome in this group. That's the highest compliment. Okay, I don't know I'm here, but I'm not going to change who I am. I'll find my peeps. I'll find my group.
Hmm.
And I remember even when I was getting ready to do my TEDx speech, and it's not your average Joe of a TEDx speech. And people were like, I don't know, Sandy, it's kind of crazy and out there. And I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point. Because there will be people that love it and people will think I'm wackadoo. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, it'll bring me, you will have more fun. Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
I've gotten to be, I don't hold back. In my show, I do things that other folks my age might not do. I talk about how I um learned about orgasm because I was in one of these, women's consciousness raising groups in Berkeley in the early 70s, and I was trying to figure this all out. And so somebody in the group says, well, maybe you could try that bathtub technique. And I don't know how many of you guys know about the bathtub technique, but it actually worked. It was like, run the stream, just the right temperature, just the right pressure, put your crotch underneath and just relax, because I couldn't relax with my boyfriend because I didn't know what was going on. But I relaxed, and suddenly, like stars float around my fingers and my toes are tingling. My stomach is like filling up with
Yeah,
warmth.
yeah.
Ah, and so I do that in the show. We have water running in the show, the set,
Oh my,
and I do it. And then,
I love
like,
it.
the next thing is like, I don't know how many of y'all heard of Joni Blank, but she founded the first women's vibrator store called Good Vibrations in San Francisco. It
Oh my
ended up
God.
taking off all over. She had stores over the Bay
Yeah,
Area
yeah.
and in Boston, and eventually other folks opened stores for women. But I walked into the very first one. It was a block and a half from my house. And at that point, you didn't just like try the vibrator on your wrist at the counter, but they had a back room. And so she hands me a bunch of vibrators. I go to the back
Mm.
room. And so in the play, we hear the buzz of the vibrators, and I'm like off stage pretending to be
Oh
in the
my
back room.
God. How clever. How clever.
And hey, every single one of those vibrators worked. She was a little aghast. She said, "It's just to test it. It's not to like try it," but I had to try each one of them.
Oh my gosh, you're a hoot. All right. So let's back up a little bit because there's a lot of people out there. My listeners are the most, well, I feel they're the most accepting, loving, open-minded people. They're into self-growth and self-development. But there's a lot of them that because of the way they grew up, and I got a lot of questions here for you, they just feel uncomfortable talking about it. It just doesn't come like this conversation. They're probably turning purple, going, oh God, Sandy, now what? Not because they're against it. They just don't know how to become more open with it. So let's take a step back and address some of these questions. I'll call this person Sally Bell. And Sally just wants advice on how she can bring the subject up more comfortable, even with her husband. She just gets so shy. Not that they don't have sex, she says they do, but even trying to talk to him about what she likes or dislikes, she just starts. This is funny because she's 67 and she just starts giggling and turning beet red. And they've been married and they've been married 30 some years, happily
I
married.
love it. Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate her for wanting to bring it up and
Yeah.
for facing that there are things to talk about. Because
Yeah.
for so many folks, the whole experience of sex was in the dark, and both literally and figuratively, and that it was just supposed to be magic, and you didn't say a thing, and whatever happened was right, or you had to make it right. And
Mm,
that's kind of how movie sex was for a lot of people. It's just like they just kind of, they kiss and hug, they landed in bed, and then the next scene is they're smiling, and it was all sweet.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yay
Sally
for
Bell.
Sally for wanting to talk about it. And
Yeah.
the truth is everyone really wants to talk about it, because no one is going to read us perfectly all the time. And in
Mm,
fact, every day our bodies are different. So even if her husband was super good yesterday, today she's just wired a little differently, because every day's different. And whatever he's doing today may not feel so great. So the deal is to accept that conversation is absolutely part of it, and that it's not at all embarrassing, but it's essential.
mm,
So and even start out with just maybe sound effects, like just a sweet moan when it's good, or a when it isn't, to just begin, like, creating a a a window for exchanging information that may not be completely nonverbal, because
yeah.
some folks are really comfortable with keeping it nonverbal, and because it's scary to say more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I love that.
then
I love
just
that you
to,
said
like,
that.
offer a little, nonverbal commentary is a start. Yeah, go ahead. You had something.
No, I love the refraining that, and it's magical. I put it in big print here. Every day you're wired a little differently and your body has changed. So when you're talking to your mate, to say that, like, because I could just see them like being, why didn't you tell me years ago? I did, getting their feelings hurt. You have an out.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
right,
like
and say, well,
today.
listen,
Today
yeah,
I'm feeling different.
yeah. And then they can't be insulted. Like, hey,
No,
my body's
no,
changed. I'm
yeah,
feeling,
yeah, because it's really, you wanna, especially if you're, like, mated for life and you're in
yeah,
a really decent marriage, you don't wanna, come in with these bombshell things of, "I never liked it," or
yeah,
you
yeah,
or "You never," whatever. Or "I
yeah,
never orgasm," or whatever, that would be really, like, not a good conversation starter.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. I'm highlighting it, circling it. I'm gonna say no, because I'm all about you can have difficult conversations. It's just how, you frame it. And this is
Okay,
coming
and
from a
then
good
just
place.
for a little data, because I'm a data person
I know
too.
I love that.
Have this, like, doctorate in sexology, and at one point I did orgasm research, where we, surveyed all kinds of folks about, is sex satisfying without an orgasm? How often, you know, is it this, is it that, whatever. And the truth is, at least amongst a lot of Westerners and Americans, is that they're admitting that generally through penile vaginal intercourse, a lot of the time women are not having an orgasm through that
Mm,
method.
mm,
And that the way women are wired, both psychologically and physically, is that they need direct clitoral
yeah,
stimulation.
yeah,
And so, there's any number of ways to add that, incorporate that, whatever it might be, you
yeah,
know, and to put, there's positions one can do that can where there's proper positioning of grinding the pelvis isn't that way that if it could lead to an orgasm, but many folks don't
Yeah.
do that, or they're not, or they just have their bodies are have not wired up to that. So there's just all kinds of other ways to add more and add different and
Yeah.
discuss it so that they face they're not alone. And then we did some
Yes.
real interesting research um, on a cheating study. And this is at the point, I don't know if, there's a new documentary out on Netflix on the Ashley Madison website. So I don't know how many of your folks have even heard of it, but it's a
Mm.
site that enabled married folks to find other married people to cheat with.
Oh, I saw that advertised on
Yeah.
Netflix. I haven't
Yeah.
watched it, but I
So
saw it advertised.
anyway, uh, at years before they were hacked, I was hired to do orgasm research or to do research for them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the things that stood out was that all the men thought that other men were getting more blowjobs than they were at home.
Mm.
And that they thought that maybe if they went on a site like this, they might be able to increase the number of blowjobs they were getting.
Okay.
So, and we started assessing, well, what goes on with men and the blowjob, and why is oral sex different for women than for men? Like most women would consider oral sex foreplay. It may be much more
Yeah,
orgasmic than
yeah.
intercourse, but that's their experience, and oftentimes their eyes are closed and they're just sort of feeling the sensation. Where with men, they're oftentimes their eyes are open and they're watching this woman who's really into them do it. And it's so it's a visual and psycho-emotional thing because they're, getting acceptance by having their private part in her mouth. And to watch it and to get off on it is a whole other thing for men. And
You know,
so this
go
is
ahead.
kind of why we were noting that these men really didn't, the men who were responding by and large didn't want it from a sex worker. They wanted it from someone who was into them, be it a
Wow.
on the side lover or their partner.
Wow. So everything you're saying to me is really helpful, and people, like you said, not feeling they're alone. Like I'm not the only one, especially when you're saying something to your mate. When I'm going back to the orgasm for women, and it's when you're saying it's like, oh, everyone has it but me, and the fact that you're saying no, that's not the case, it probably makes them feel so good.
Right. Yeah. Data is power. And
Yeah.
back in 1976, Cher Height came out with the Height Report, where she was reporting that 70% of her respondents were claiming they were not having orgasm through intercourse. And so that put a
Yep.
whole layer on,
Yeah.
where do you fit in? Some of the stuff about her data is actually kind of interesting because I know a little more backstory because she actually sent out 100,000 questionnaires. It was way before the days of, online surveys. People
Mhm.
had to receive it, fill it out with a paper and pencil, um, and mail it back, and so she only got 3,000 respondents returning it, which was like 3%.
Mm.
But nonetheless, that was a very motivated 3%. For the
Wow.
studies I did, I had really high response rates because it was much easier to engage it because um, it was right, in their computer. They just ticked off some
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
and we had a fairly motivated group of people doing it. But still, we were getting numbers that to some extent confirmed that situation, where we had like less than 2% of folks claiming that they always orgasmed with their partner. And we think those folks were about 15 years old and didn't know what was really going
Yes,
on.
yes, yes. Oh my God. I I'm sitting here thinking every time all these questions I got for you, most of them are about being able to communicate with their partner who they
Right,
love very much. So
right,
many of them.
right.
And stumbling blocks and feeling embarrassed or how to embrace it and how to say it. And the one thing I keep getting over and over and over again is people saying they feel silly. They feel like, how do I bring up the conversation after X amount of years? And I think all these statements you're making, I love the fact that you're saying how the research and the history of it makes you feel not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone has a hard time communicating about certain things. And
Mhm.
for some people, it's about money. But a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people, it could be about sex. And it could be simply because, I mean, like I've had partners that even though I'm like a PhD in sexology, they won't communicate because they somehow think I know everything, which is
Oh, yeah.
disaster because I'm just a person. I might have like done a decent dissertation and done a lot of talks and written stuff and whatever. But when it comes down to it, I'm just a person
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
just a, a,
But I
a
could see
brain,
them
with
being
just a
intimidated.
body.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could see them being intimidated.
yeah. Or just thinking that for some reason, whatever I'm up to is right, which
Yeah.
isn't. It may not be right for them at all.
Yeah. All right, I want to switch gears a little bit because I am fascinated that you taught this many years at a college, right? College level.
Right, right.
Do you miss it? I mean, that just sounds like it would have been so much fun.
Well, okay. There's a up and a down. The up was I loved have it was like having a one person show 5 nights a week because I had all these built-in audiences. They some of them just really connected with my
Yeah.
style and my jokes and
Yeah.
all my fun data. And when that was over, of course I missed it. But
Hmm.
the world of college teaching had changed, where my students were so glued to their cell phones that
Oh,
they
okay.
could barely pay attention.
Gotcha.
Because it's like they were like every time somebody sent them a Snapchat or an Instagram or a text or whatever, they'd get a dopamine hit because it was to them about them. Something they posted got liked. And I'm just
Got it.
giving a lecture and, maybe showing some images and talk. And it's like they're having to be responsive in a spectator mode for like upwards of 2 to 3 hours. And they couldn't do it. They
Mm,
kept landing into their phones and
gotcha.
they were used to maybe watching a YouTube that lasted like 2 minutes or a TikTok. And I'm like showing them an hour-long documentary. They'd all crash. They could not stay awake. They
I
couldn't,
gotcha.
their attention spans were just co-opted by the phone. And I could not compete.
Wow.
And then,
I never thought of that. Yeah. I
then
didn't think of that.
basically when the dean came in and observed my class, they just said, "Hey, everybody's on the phone. They're not paying attention to you." And it's like, and I just gave up. I just could not. And so I ended up deciding to do a counseling practice because I have this doctorate in sexology. Had studied
Mhm.
clinical sexology. I wanted to do more of that. And it was like night and day because everybody who came in for a session actually wanted information from me. And so I was taking all this information I had and
Yeah.
tailoring it for them. What did they need to hear? If there was issues of communication regarding pleasuring or whatever, I told them just the things that made sense for them to take on. And that was so delightful because
Yeah.
they were a really
Mm.
appreciative audience.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That must have been like, whoa, they're actually listening to what I'm saying. They
Because I
paid
just
me to
got
do
so
this.
tired of not being listened to.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I, got into solo theater because it's kind of like stand-up comedy, but it's a
Yeah.
little extended, with more time because usually a stand-up is about 7 minutes, and this show I have is sometimes it runs to be an hour.
Oh,
So it's much more extended storytelling and so far I've had a lot of fun with it and people and the only thing that's weird is people will see the show and think they don't need to read the book. They have
uh,
no idea that the book
oh.
is like 10 times longer than the show with so many more stories.
All right, listen, we're running out of time. I'm sure I could talk to you forever, but I want to make sure get this in because I got a lot of comments on this one. And it's really hard. You said you led an extraordinary life and that everybody can live an extraordinary life, but you have to make no apologies for your whatever they are, your passions, your interest, and your appetites and your curiosity. Have you always been like that? Because I think that's really a difficult thing for the women around the world. They call it, I call it their sticky wicket. If they're not fit in the mold, it's really hard for them to say whatever it is
Mhm.
that this is.
Well, I would say my parents were pretty original people.
Oh,
And so I was probably given a fair amount of latitude to be my own self,
oh,
whatever that was. And it's so funny. It's like I have a nephew who is like, he's so into costuming. He's so into like sort of doing it his crazy way. So I'm sure a little bit of that runs in my family.
oh, good.
So, but nonetheless, I would invite everyone to find out, to follow the things that you're really passionate about. Like there were I
Mm.
just got really curious about other cultural ways. And I lived in remote villages in
Yeah.
Mexico and in Africa and popped the questions that I wanted answered in such a way that I got answers. Like one of the
Mhm.
craziest questions I popped was in Papua New Guinea, where the men sleep in men's houses, the women sleep in their own houses with their children and maybe their
Oh,
co-wives. And there's all these issues about pollution. Menstrual blood pollution, semen pollution. So men don't want to have too much contact with women. Women are, not, could be, debilitated by too much semen pollution in the men's house. And so I basically said, well, hey, you do have children. When does that happen? And they told me. They said in the afternoon in their sweet potato garden.
I love sweet potatoes.
And sweet potatoes are a main staple. Like they have a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
r- delicious flavor, carbohydrate, energy, and that's what keeps them going. The afternoons and the potatoes.
Oh my God. Afternoon delight. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, people, I can't get to all these. The time is up. You can definitely reach out. We'll give you all that information at the end. But Dr. Leanna, you've mentioned your shows. So what shows are coming up? What's
Okay,
going
well,
on? What
I
do you
have
got
a
going
show
on?
with the same name as my book, 177 Lovers and Counting. My Life as a Sex Researcher. It's at the Hollywood Fringe Festival here in Los Angeles.
Woo!
And so if any of your listeners happen to be in Southern California in June, I have 3 performances. June 8th, June 13th, and June 23rd. So
Awesome.
hopefully you'll all come by, check out the show. I'm sure Sandy has a link to stuff,
Mhm.
and then forward to seeing you there and sharing some of my special brand of storytelling.
Yeah. And how can they reach you? How can they find you?
Oh, well,
Or how can they get your book? All
oh,
of
my
it.
book. Well, my book is on Amazon. It's available through my publisher, and you could click on it through my website. I have a website called Wise Woman Sex and Relationship Consulting.com.
Oh, cool.
And so going to that site would take them to a link for my book.
Cool. All right, Dr. Leanna Wolfe, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. I really, really appreciate it. And I
Oh, my
appreciate what you're doing in the
pleasure.
world.
Had a really good time. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I love, I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again, how you're encouraging people, just to be their authentic self, be playful and not apologize for their passions and their whatever they are. So
Hmm.
thank you for doing that. All
Welcome.
right, my hey, I got something to say, people. You know how much I love you. I appreciate you. Both Dr. Leanna and I would really love it if you shared, liked it, and rated it. Tell us what you want. Spread the love. There's somebody out there I know there's at least one person that would enjoy this. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Toodles. Bye, Dr. Leanna.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.